During the 1920s, the stock market wasn't regulated. Many Americans bought stock on credit, known as margin buying. Politicians did not understand this because they had never experienced it before, so they took no steps to regulate the economy or even notice anything was wrong.
I got the words, I got the tune. I've been rehearsing under the moon, but I got nobody to hear my song, so I'm humming to myself. I got the place, I got the time, I got a lot of love, words that rhyme, but I got nobody to hear my song, so I'm humming to myself. I guess it just had to be. Won't someone listen to me? I got the words.
The major cause of the influx or the boom of the 20s can be attributed to many things. The main thing was World War I.
Before the 1920s, many Protestant congregations worshipped less in prayer and attending Mass, but more so in social and reform activities in the community. A religious revival spread as a result of this, focusing attention back on prayer and more specifically on a direct interpretation of the Bible. This religious trend often came to heads with science, specifically evolution, which contradicts the first book of the Bible, Genesis. Religious fundamentalism attracted millions of Americans to the defense against the uncertainties of modern life, seeking refuge in their religion. The 1925 Scopes-Mucky trial attracted a lot of media attention, and it is a good microcosm of the conflicts between the religious fundamentalist trend and science. Their literal interpretation of the Bible led to a restriction of teaching evolution in public schools in 5 southern states. The trial was broadcast by radio to the nation, and the jury convicted Scopes quickly. Brian died a week after the trial.
The 18th Amendment banned the manufacture, sales, and transportation of alcoholic beverages in January 1920. The amendment was enforced by the Volstead Act, which established a federal prohibition bureau, but the bureau was extremely understaffed, and therefore enforcement of prohibition proved to be very difficult. There was still a great public demand for alcohol, and this demand led to lawbreaking.
Now my sin is wanting you, though you forgotten me.
The flapper image did embody the new morality image that overpowered the media, but the flapper was not as new or widespread as it looked. The roots of flappers started in many different subcultures like bohemians, political radicals, African American ghettos, and dance halls. These cultures became more normal and emerged with middle-class white women in the 1920s.
Membership rose to 3 million during the KKK's peak. Religious fundamentalism sparked the second wave of the KKK as people began going back to traditional Protestant values. The 1924 Immigration Act set quotas on the number of immigrants coming from Southern and Eastern Europe. Eventually, immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe reduced by 97%.
In the 1920s, a new cultural awareness in the African American community began to emerge. Many blacks began to search for a new sense of independence and pride through music, art, and literature. The new spirit of African Americans became known as the New Negro.
President Herbert Hoover was politically a staunch supporter of volunteerism and individualism. He liked the idea of an associative state, in which the federal government encouraged but didn't enforce cooperation between corporations, consumers, workers, farmers, and small businesses. He won the election of 1928 in a landslide, and 8 months after his presidency began, the stock market crashed. His proposals to battle the Great Depression were meant to keep more money in people's pockets and keep people working. He's favored far less in public opinion than FDR because Hoover didn't push new ideas and bold experimentation like FDR did.
Dearest, I've loved you in vain, for it's so plain to see that you never loved me. Sunshine has turned into rain, and all my gladness has turned into sadness. Sweetheart, if you should stray a million miles away, I'll always be in love with you. And though you find more bliss in someone else's kiss, I'll always be
He was also a known leader of the Harlem Renaissance. One of his most famous poems is Harlem, Dream Deferred. The poem describes the increase in black intellectualism in a time of racial oppression.
I wish you happiness. As for me, sweetheart, I guess.
Hello, incoming sophomores. This is your new year at APUSH. My biggest advice for the exam is flashcards. They're very fun. You can make games out of them if you're into that sort of thing. So whether it be flashcards or review books like 5 Steps to a 5 or Prent Hall Press, I would say get your studying done about 3 days before the exam, because those few days you really need to relax and settle down, or else you're not going to do well on the exam.
For review books, just remember that the Princeton Review and the Barron's are much better than 5 Steps to a 5. It can change your score.
Some of my biggest advice for APUSH is that you should definitely get a review book at the beginning of the year instead of waiting a long time, because I got the Princeton Review probably a month before the AP exam, but I really wish I would have had it longer, because every single review chapter would have really helped me for the test throughout the year also.
I think it's important to set aside at least 20 minutes to study your review book. Make sure to take short chapter quizzes and practice AP exams so you're prepared for the real test. Taking the practice AP exam will give you experience in pacing and familiarizing yourself with the questions. Also, make sure to save one practice test for just before the AP exam.
My advice is that I would suggest going back in your review book and highlighting as much of the content that you don't know. Make sure that while you are reading, you are also highlighting important facts such as events or people, or main ideas. Also, after you are done taking the practice quizzes at the end of each chapter, or a practice AP exam, make sure you go back and pinpoint the places and the events that you do not know.